This is the CMO and Joe podcast. We interview today's most inspiring chief marketing officers and savvy marketers of lucrative direct-to-consumer.
And we are live. I'm really excited to have my next guest on the podcast, Nora Marsh. She's the director of marketing at CareMessage. Welcome to the podcast, Nora.
Thank you. Actually, that's funny. I have heard other people be like, care massage. And I'm like, oh, that would be nice. That sounds comfortable.
Yeah.
It's a different line. I'm director of marketing at CareMessage. So yes, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's just jump right into it. Maybe it's not Care Massage, it's CareMessage. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So we're a technology platform that works to bridge the needs of safety net healthcare organizations and underserved patient populations. So when we say safety net healthcare organizations, it's like primarily government funded health centers and free clinics. And we're communicating with people who might be underinsured or uninsured, houseless, experiencing other issues. And it primarily takes the form of text messaging to patients. So like appointment reminders and health programs. And obviously during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been a lot of important health information and vaccination messaging and testing availability stuff. So I started working with CareMessage in a product marketing director role last September, and then it became clear pretty quickly. We're kind of a startup environment. They needed more general marketing leadership, so I moved into a director of marketing position, and now I'm building a team. So that's the startup life, like things just change quickly, but it's super fun and really dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. I see you guys are always hiring, so I'm like, oh wow, these guys are growing really quickly.
I hope so. Yeah, that's a lot of work. Hiring takes so much time to do it right.
Absolutely, the fun growing pains of a startup.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you've been with them for just under a year now. I see you have a ton of experience in the health and wellness space. Could you maybe walk us through how you got to your current role today?
Sure. Yeah, I'm getting so old. I was writing my bio the other day and it was like 20 years of experience.
Time flies.
I know. So, I've worked in healthcare for 20 years, but most of it was on the agency side. And after I finished grad school, I just kind of happened into pharmaceutical marketing. So I spent about 15 years working in medical communications and advertising agencies, like pharmaceutical specific advertising, which is sort of a niche. The pharmaceutical industry has its issues, but it's so dynamic because it's really driven by like patent extensions or patent expirations and line extensions. And so everything is like always moving really quickly. And they're thinking, once this expires in 7 years, what's going to be our next step? And at the same time, it's like so highly regulated that from a marketing standpoint, it makes a really interesting challenge. And the mix is different than like consumer. That's a lot of events work and conventions, digital marketing, and lots of sales enablement because the pharmaceutical sales teams are like a well-oiled machine. They have like this incredible time pressure, and then they're expected to perform at like a really, really high level, communicating really complex ideas really quickly, and every move that they make is measured. So as an outsider, like sales enablement in pharmaceuticals is tremendously interesting, and something that like I still use some of those best practices now that I learned in terms of like sales training. But I worked with pharmaceutical clients, and I was at McCann Health for almost 10 years. So it was like this interesting dichotomy where I was working for this like really creative New York-based advertising agency. Like I had a bottle of vodka in my desk drawer at all times, but our clients were incredibly corporate, very hierarchical, very political, in a way that was completely the opposite of the politics on the agency side, where it's like, if you are funny, and you have like the ability to think on your feet, like in quick humor, that's really like kind of the most important thing. So it was really fun to work in agencies and then have these corporate clients that, you know, I always felt a little bit kind of detached from. But then after about 15 years of agency work, I had left New York. I was back in Portland, Oregon, which is where I'm from. And I had spent the last few years of my career at McCann working with clients on the West Coast. So I decided to move to a large Portland-based corporation that is a healthcare insurance company. And also did have this arm that was like an incubator for healthcare technologies. And so it was really a career pivot for me. So I went from like agency account management to product marketing internally in a corporate setting. And that was a tough change because I had a lot of marketing experience, but I was not used to the corporate setting. I was used to like kind of that agency detachment. I was used to having like a powerhouse creative team for everything that I was working on. You know, working at an agency can be fun, and the corporate team that I came into was not as much fun. So I had to make it fun, and I had the opportunity to learn product marketing in a healthcare technology setting, which was really different, but like so marketable for my career. And it was good to like, you know, take that different step to something completely new. And I got used to not having clients. I got used to having more ownership over my work. I was working on a team that was developing a new product, so I got to move around a bit, and I got some product experience, some operations experience. So then, you know, for my next role after that, I wanted to stay in healthcare technology. I wanted to stay in product marketing, but I wanted to work for a less corporate company and have the ability to have ownership in the product marketing space. And it was a bonus that I've been able at CareMessage to expand over into other areas of marketing strategy and execution, more similar to kind of what I did for my clients on the agency side. So it draws from a lot of my strengths and experience, and I've been really lucky.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Going from that agency, almost like Mad Men type, modern day Mad Men environment to the corporate internal machine, and now to a startup. I'm sure you've had so many different experiences to learn on the marketing strategy side of things.
Yeah, it's been fun. You know, I think there's benefits and drawbacks to each of them. And, you know, a good thing about being the point that I'm in my career now, I'm just like, oh, you know, everywhere you go, there's benefits and drawbacks. Every kind of company is going to be like some things you really like and some things that are challenges. So just take the good with the bad.
I love that. In terms of, I mean, you have a wealth of experience in marketing. So I'm just curious, what sort of things have you listened to, read that's really helped you along your way in your career journey?
You know, I would say when I moved over into product marketing, the Pragmatic Institute was really helpful. They have podcasts that I listen to. I did some pragmatic courses. They have a framework for product marketing that's really, really helpful, because I find that different companies tend to define product marketing really differently. Like some things fit within product marketing in some organizations that might fit within sales elsewhere, or within business development elsewhere. So sometimes it's helpful just to take that framework and be like, what is product marketing to you? So Pragmatic Institute has some really good resources for that. You know, recently I've been reading more around content strategy because it's something that I'm doing a lot of right now in my current role. So I've been reading some good books on content strategy. One's called Content Rules by Ann Hanley and CC Chapman, which is just like how to kind of develop content and get the most out of it and have a strong brand place. So that's been helpful too lately.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to link that in the description of the podcast so that our listeners could check it out as well to get some golden nuggets as well. Yeah, what's something, I mean, an exciting trend in product marketing that you've seen from when you first started to now?
You know, it doesn't sound super exciting, You know, and the things that I'm focused on right now are probably really specific to the SaaS industry, and to the challenges that we're having right now as an organization. In my space, I'm excited about the potential of digital onboarding, because I think that, you know, the brand experience doesn't end when someone decides to purchase, right? We all know that, but like driving customer loyalty through a good experience and targeted messaging through the onboarding process. You know, there's so much in marketing about knowing your customer, and we really have time, like opportunities to tailor messaging by job roles and use cases and industry to improve the perceived value of the product. And I think it's an overlooked area for brand development, especially like when you're looking at customer retention being really important, like it is in my space. And also that we may have one customer that goes through multiple onboardings because of turnover of the end users. So making sure that we develop more loyalists through that process, I think is something that I'm focusing on right now.
Mm. One thing that you mentioned earlier was the content strategy side of things. And I'm a big proponent of content. I think content is king. I mean, everybody listening probably already knows that, but what sort of things in the content space are you looking at, or are you excited about?
Well, today I was talking with our customer success team about doing an office hours where we're talking to our customers about the challenges that they're having, the way that they want to use the product, you know, specific use cases, helping them to optimize the value that they're getting. And we were saying, you know, if we do this office hours, we should record it, and we should you know, create blog posts out of it, and we should maybe do an ebook at the end of the year based on, you know, best practices for using our product. And so it's really saying, okay, if we have one content opportunity, I mean, in this classic marketing, like, let's grab that content and give it as many legs as we can and put it in a lot of different places and make sure that it's always available to our customers, because maybe they don't have that question today, but they'll have it, you know, 3 months from now, and we want to make it easy for them, and we want them to get as much value as they can out of the product. So, you know, how do we take content that may be residing just in one place and make sure that it's doing the most for us in multiple different locations?
I love that. Just the distribution strategy of content, I think, is really important. Just being able to be present, because the users, every user is different and unique. So someone might want to consume content on social media like LinkedIn, or maybe on audio or video. So who knows, maybe I'll see a CareMessage podcast in the future.
Yeah, that would be good. I'll get some tips from you.
What's maybe one question? I always love asking this question just because it's maybe a little bit more fun, but what's one question that you never get asked that you wish you would be asked?
Just in general, I don't think anyone has ever asked me, with my agency background, like, what, because agencies sometimes are like, we got to think of something like really crazy. I don't think anyone ever asked me what is the most ludicrous idea I have ever seen an agency pitch. And the answer to that, and I swear, is I once saw an agency pitch that a woman would give birth to a baby as part of a promotional event for a brand.
No way.
Absolutely the wildest and most offensive thing. And the funniest thing, it was not even immediately and forcefully shut down. People were like,
this could work. It's not going to be offensive at all.
What, a branded birth?
That is so funny.
I hope that doesn't give anyone any idea. Not a good idea.
Yeah. Next quarter pitch.
I know.
Oh, that's funny.
No, it's so bad.
Speaking of brand, though, what's maybe one component of a brand that you really admire, or maybe a component or an ingredient of a successful brand?
You know, I think the most important thing is consistency, but I think that's like very much a marketer's answer, because it's something that we're always tasked with making sure that we maintain, like consistency of the brand, is this on brand? But, I have 2 young sons, and you really see how this is so fundamental with kids, because there are these dumb ads on the radio here in Portland for like this heating and cooling company. And one of the announcers has this terrible Australian accent, like absolutely terrible. But those ads are so memorable and recognizable. And why is he Australian? No one knows. But every time those ads come on, I'm like, I hear these ads, and my kids are like, it's the Revival heating and cooling ad. Because they know it, and so it's just that consistency of how do you make something sound like your brand. And that's like an extreme example of it. But, I think as marketers, that's important. And one of the trends that I think has been the most remarkable over the course of my now long career in marketing is that we're expected to be writers now. And when I started in marketing, it was like, oh, you'll be the marketing manager and you'll have your copywriter and you'll set the strategy and they'll execute on it. And it's your job to make sure that, it fulfills the expectations, but it's their job to ensure that, that it's the voice and the proofreading and the this and the, but now it's very much expected, I find, especially in technology, that as the marketer, you're the writer too. And that's a completely different skill set. And even like I have friends where they have 20 marketers on their team and they're all writing their own content. And I'm like, how do you ensure consistency of voice? And it's like, good question.
Yeah. Yikes.
I know. Yeah. So that's hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I've seen that trend too. Just yeah, you just have to produce content, going back kind of the content piece we talked about, just writing content. I mean, there's 3 ways to consume content. There's written, there's audio, visual, or video. So yeah, I've seen a huge influx of content online. And it's like you mentioned, how do you have that consistent tone of voice or voice to cut through the noise of everybody producing content? So that's an interesting challenge these days.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah.
It's funny, you mentioned the radio. That might be a dinosaur platform to some of our listeners. What sort of other platforms are you looking at to market on? You see the rise of TikTok and all these new platforms, but I'm curious from your perspective, what have you been excited about or seeing good success on?
Well, yeah, we don't market on the radio. That would be, I've never sold a radio ad my whole career. But, and honestly, also my work on social has been limited because pharma is so highly regulated that it's really hard to do social because of all the text and the small print language. And the startups that I've worked for have been mostly small and pre-launch, like highly targeted B2B kind of sales. So, I do corporate stuff on LinkedIn. I think, and now, we don't do conventions anymore because of the pandemic, so we've been doing a lot of webinars. That's been fun. I love doing customer testimonials. I like doing webinars that have customer success case stories. I like showing how people are using our product to solve their problems. I'm really into data proof points and having like a solid and demonstrated improvement. And that's something that we're really big on at CareMessage is, our data and the strength of the number of messages that we've sent and demonstrated improvement in health outcomes. So it's great to be able to show that on a customer basis. And so we've done a lot of webinars to replace the in-person meetings that we used to do. And I think that's something that we'll probably continue to do after the pandemic because, they're so durable. You put them on your website and I see people downloading content from them, the slides or looking at the presentations months after we posted them. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very scalable from my experience as well. It's funny you mentioned talking about, I just slipped my mind. So you're saying webinars, content strategy. what's maybe one tactic or maybe metric within content strategy or content production that you really hone in on, whether it be likes, views? Yeah, what's maybe one metric that you tend to focus on as a key performing metric?
Yeah. It can be hard because metrics can be deceiving in some ways in terms of something as straightforward as likes or views, or, I mean, I think, if it's content and you have downloads, that's great. One thing that I'm doing right now in rewriting our website is just put in our demo request form at the bottom of every page, because I'm like, that's what we want at the end of the day. I don't want someone to download a case study. I don't want someone to, download presentation slides. I want somebody to request a demo. And so right now I'm going to be looking, as we revamp our website, a lot as how many marketing qualified leads we get out of that. But I also am putting a new customer learning center on our website to be able to not only show to our customers the content that's really helpful for them in getting the most value out of CareMessage, but also to our prospects, the kind of support that they'll get if they become our customers. And so I think I'm going to be really interested in seeing how much traffic we get there, because I think that will be like a taste for prospects of, the things that people can accomplish using our product and the kind of support that they get once they become a customer of ours. And so I'm going to be really interested to see how many people end up there and what kind of content they consume once they get there.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned MQLs, or marketing qualified leads, for listeners. I always find marketing very much of a data game. It's very easy to look at the numbers and then try and scale based on some of the key metrics there. Would you consider yourself, or at least let me rephrase it this way, what sort of superpower do you think Nora Marsh has that has made her become such a successful marketer?
Oh, that's funny, because somebody today said to me, those are really good meeting notes. I was like, thanks, that's my superpower. And I was like, one time a colleague of mine flew me to California just to take notes for his dumb meeting. And I had to say, do not do that again. But I do take really good meeting notes. And I think that is, for me, part of what helps me to be successful just day to day is like taking, keeping for posterity the decisions that I've made, the direction that I have. And that's really something that I think you learn from an agency, is you have to have a brief. You have to have your client sign off on the brief. You have to have a scoping of the project. You have to have goals for the project. You have to have creative mandatories for the project. And so it's really the documentation, right? Like, and that's what meeting notes come down to too, is like, these are the decisions we made in this meeting. These are the action items that everybody has. And it's really having the rigor to make sure that when you are starting a project, you're not just saying, we're sending out an email to let everybody know this. It's like, okay, what is the overall strategy that this ladders up to? Is this part of our, customer success strategy that we're sending out the email, or is it part of, our lead gen strategy? It can't just be like, let's send out an email to send out an email. It's like this feeds into a greater thing that we're trying to accomplish as an organization. And with that greater thing, what's the goal, and how are we measuring it? And I think that when you work for an agency and you're getting paid by the hour, and that your client is going to make you justify, the amount of time that you spent on something, you develop the rigor to be like, okay, here's what we decided this project was going to be, and here's what we decided it was going to accomplish, and here are the steps that we agreed upon that it's going to include. And I think that's really helpful when you transition to other jobs, to have that viewpoint of structuring your projects that way.
Absolutely. It sounds like it's almost like art and science mixed together,
Mhm.
knowing what the overall broad vision and strategy is, but also using those numbers to justify and help push the project forward.
Yeah, well, that's marketing, right? It's there's the creative part of it. You know, it's always so funny when people like are like, "Oh, you work in marketing. Marketing doesn't work on me," and you're like, "No, we know it does."
Yeah, there's numbers to prove so. Oh, that's funny. What's one thing I wanted to ask was what's maybe one thing that CareMessage does that maybe the listeners don't know about? Maybe something, a campaign coming up they could share, or just a neat initiative within the organization.
Yeah, well, message has had like a wild last 2 years because there was this, big pandemic, and at the beginning of the pandemic, before I worked at CareMessage, our founders realized that there was a huge potential for CareMessage to really help healthcare providers to communicate with patients at scale with text messaging, like even healthcare providers that hadn't been texting patients before. Because like all of a sudden 2 years ago, people had to learn about COVID prevention and what is social distancing. Like we never even heard of that before. And then eventually, about vaccine rollouts and scheduling appointments. And so we made this scaled down light version of CareMessage and made it available for free to anybody who wanted to use it. And that ended up not even just being healthcare organizations, but like up in the Seattle area, the United Way of King County ended up using our product to communicate with their community about rental assistance and food security. And it's being used with other community-based organizations to, like food pantries. And, we know that health isn't just having access to a doctor. It's, are you worried about having food? And are you concerned about being able to pay your rent? Have you had your utilities cut off? Do you feel physically safe? So, at CareMessage, we're also committed to working with organizations that help people improve their health outcomes by addressing social determinants of health as well. So it's something that that is kind of an expansion of the use of our product that has been fed by some of the free usage that we had during the pandemic, but we're really excited about in terms of the future.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see more amazing things to come. Like I said, you guys are always hiring, so it seems like you guys are growing like crazy. So lots more exciting things to come. What's maybe one thing that you're proud of that we haven't touched on in the interview so far?
I would say that I'm really excited at this point in my career that I've been able to stay working in healthcare, but be able to move to a company that is more in line with my hope of where we go as a country, which is universal healthcare. So finally, kind of working for a mission-driven nonprofit organization is like a breath of fresh air for me. And at CareMessage, our vision is really like a world where all people, regardless of income or background, are able to achieve equitable health outcomes. And it's something that's really personally important to me. And so I'm really proud of the fact of being able to pivot my career to work for an organization that aligns really, really well with my personal sentiments there. So that's great, and oftentimes when we're looking at like a product feature or a strategy, one of our leadership team will say, okay, but that idea, does that help us to use our product to help more people achieve better health outcomes? Like truly we will. And, I've worked at other nonprofits where that hasn't been the case. It's on paper, but it's not really lived. So I'm really proud of that. And so I'm proud to come to work every day because we're making a difference for people. So it's great.
Hmm. Kind of going back to that authenticity piece, I think when you're fully aligned with the vision of your organization and you're putting out content that also align to that, people feel that, and you attract more people, and it's just a success, or it's ingredients for successful brands. So
Yeah.
absolutely. I only have a couple more
Yeah.
questions here for you, Nora.
Sure.
Where can our listeners connect with you online if they wanted to follow up with any questions or just say hello?
Sure. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Nora Not Marsh. My maiden name, well, my previous last name was Not, N-O-T-T. So Nora Not Marsh.
Awesome. Actually, one thing I did want to touch on was I saw that you did some studying in McGill up here in Canada.
Yeah.
How's your time in Canada? I know right now, while we're recording, it's still pretty cold outside, but how do you find that?
Oh, I loved Canada. I had a great time. Montreal is a really fun place to be a student. And I loved McGill. My marketing professor teacher at McGill was awesome. He was always doing like case studies and talking about his own personal and professional experience. And he was really one of the people who motivated me to go into marketing. So definitely that I had a great time. I had an awesome experience. And my only rule was if it was -30 or colder, I did not leave my apartment.
That's a pretty good rule. That's a rule up on my fridge as well. So you're not alone there. Yeah, my last question, Nora, is since this is a marketing podcast, my last question to you would be, what's one word or phrase that you'd use to describe Nora Marsh's brand?
I think fun. I try to be fun. Like you have to work hard, but everything also has to be fun, especially at work. And I think that's something too, like the agency life kind of is it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, focus on doing good creative, but I think the focus is a lot on fun. And I like to take that to every team that I work on, and just kind of inject some lightheartedness and have a good time, even though we're at work and getting stuff done together.
What's that saying? If you enjoy what you do, you don't work a day in your life.
Exactly.
So,
That's
bring fun to work. I love that. Well, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast, Nora. I'm sure listeners will have a ton of value from listening to all your golden nuggets and sharing your insights. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It was really fun. Hi, I'm Nora Marsh, and you're listening to Joe Momo Presents.
This episode of the CMO and Joe podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to help you create the profitable and successful business you've always dreamed of. And don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.